Kirkland, and welcome to Beyond the Gates. This season, we're going to be highlighting ERDC's legacy of groundbreaking research and cutting-edge technologies. Join us as we explore how innovation continues to drive progress in military and civil works missions. To be with Dr. Ben Parsons. He's the director of the ERDC DoD Supercomputing Resource Center with the Information Technology Laboratory, otherwise known as ITL. And we're going to be talking about the power of ERDC supercomputing. Good morning, Dr. Parsons. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Doing great. And thank you again for being here. And we're going to just dive on into you. Tell me about yourself and your background.
So I'm a computer engineer, and I was studying computer engineering really when I learned about ERDC through one of the DoD programs that helps, recruit people to work for the DoD. And so at the time, I was in grad school studying computer engineering. I didn't really have a focus on supercomputing or much of an interest in that, but I ended up, finding ERDC, getting paired with ERDC as part of this program, and then working in the center. And then through that, that's really what helped grow my interest in supercomputing. And so...
Did you start out as a student with ERDC? Is that how you started? Or what opened the door about ERDC to you?
Yeah, so it was the DoD SMART program.
Okay.
And that's a DoD-wide program where, it pairs, students with different sponsoring facilities, then helps fund the students, education while they finish out their degree. And then they work for the sponsoring facility afterwards.
Okay.
So I was just starting grad school when I got paired with ERDC. So I was able to shift a lot of my PhD work, to supercomputers and some of the communication patterns on the computers.
So where did you go to school?
I went to school at Purdue.
Purdue. Okay, great. Awesome. So is that where you got your PhD also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. Okay. So what is your role at ERDC?
So I'm the director of the ERDC DoD Supercomputing Resource Center, or the DSRC. This is actually a new role for me. I started in this position last Monday. So
super new.
Super new.
Super new, okay.
But I'm really familiar with the center. When I first started working at ERDC, I worked in the center. I did that for a number of years before moving to what we call the program office, which is associated with the center too, and some of the DoD management of it. And then now I'm back as the director of the center. So I'm really excited.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So what exactly is the DSRC at ERDC, and what is its mission?
Yeah, so the DSRC at ERDC, it's really part of a DoD-wide enterprise that provides supercomputing resources to researchers. So, across the DSRC, there's 5 different centers, and this is one of the 5. So we provide supercomputing resources to researchers. And the reason we do this is a centrally operated facility is that supercomputers are hard to run. If every researcher that needed to use one had to stand it up on themselves and operate it, right, that would be an insurmountable task. And so we provide these resources when researchers think that they need a supercomputer for their project. There's a process where they go and they ask for a certain amount of resources, and then really any researcher is capable or able of getting these resources to use.
Great. It just sounds so, I guess, so important. I mean, super. It's like a Superman. It's like fantastic. What makes it so super?
So I guess the difference between a supercomputer and a regular computer, the way they're designed, at least nowadays, is, the core unit, we call them like nodes, but it's really not that much different than a computer you would have at home. There's a lot more cores. Our new ones have like 192 cores per node, a lot more memory, really high performance, but the fundamental kind of pieces are the same. And then what makes them super is you take a lot of those, you take thousands of them, put them all together in one system, and connect them all with a really high-speed network so they can talk to each other really quickly and they can all work on the same problem simultaneously.
Sounds pretty super.
It is.
So how does supercomputing support the Department of Defense's research efforts and the warfighter?
So supercomputing is really important for Department of Defense research and development of weapon systems. Almost any weapon system that the DoD uses has some sort of like modeling and simulation incorporated into like the design or maintenance of it. And so, some of the things supercomputers are good at is we call it computational fluid dynamics. And so air is a fluid here. And so when you're designing an airplane, right, how does the air move over that wing? How does the air move around helicopter rotor blades? Those are all things you can simulate really effectively on the computers. You can also do a lot of structure simulation, how buildings are designed and how strong they are, and then how, different weapons have effects on those structures. That can all be simulated. Molecular dynamics, so trying to understand new materials and the properties of those materials, like on a molecular basis, that's all simulated on the computers. And then other things, like even just like mobility, how, tank treads interact with different types of surfaces. You can simulate all that. And then when you're able to simulate it, a lot of these things, they're types of tests that you could run in real life. The problem with doing them in real life is that, it takes a lot of time.
I was going to say time was probably a problem there. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, there's time, the money it costs to do some of the physical tests, and then just there's certain things that you can't actually test, with a real test because the environment's a little too complex. And so what happens, in practice is, it's not just simulation or just physical testing. You're doing both of them. You're testing certain things, seeing how that compares to the simulation, using the simulation to decide what to test next. And so it's a real cycle that leads to better designs of systems.
One thing at ERDC, it's all about the data. All about the data. So defense research is ever changing. How has ERDC's supercomputing infrastructure evolved over the years to meet these evolving needs?
Yeah, so I guess I can think of a few different changes that have happened on the systems. In recent years, there have been a lot more GPUs put on the systems that are used for data processing as well as like data analytics. We've seen a growing demand in that. And just how we've been treating data, we've been looking at that differently recently. We used to buy like one computer with one highly integrated file system to store that data. But now we've been looking at pulling some of that apart and managing the data separately because you hear about all the AI and machine learning and all that stuff. Those people treat their data a little bit differently than our traditional users. And so we've been adjusting to meet some of that. And then just at ERDC in particular, we've just had a huge growth in demand and a growth in our facilities to meet that demand. We currently have about 35,000 square feet of raised floor space for the computers. We have about 19 megawatts of backup generators for the computers in case the power cuts out. There's been a lot of facilities improvements in recent years to help meet that growing demand.
And it's just every technology and everything else just has to be supported. So can you share some notable success stories or achievements facilitated by ERDC's supercomputing capabilities?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the first ones that comes to mind is ERDC and ITL's work with the B-52 engine retrofit program. So the B-52s have been around, I don't have the year they started, but they've been around for a long time.
Right.
And so over the past few years, the Air Force has been redesigning and recompeting new engines for them to repower them. So at ERDC, we use the computers to help evaluate some of those different engines designs. And that's a unique project, I think, because they use the computers to help evaluate how the engines work, but then ITL also created kind of a ecosystem for the researchers to help them manage their data, communicate with each other. And so it was a much more rich environment than just the computers. And so we supported that engine retrofit.
Okay.
One more.
Okay.
And another recent one that comes to mind is some support for different bomb shelters. In January 7th, 2020, there were some missile strikes on some U.S. forward bases in the Middle East. And so as part of that, ERDC was asked to help design some different types of bomb shelters to help provide blast protection for soldiers in that region. And so ERDC did the work on that. There were, hundreds of HPC simulations to help evaluate those protective structures. And that, that helped both save money, about $80 million over what it would have cost to test all those structures, right? But also have a much faster design cycle to get those structures, out rapidly to the soldiers. And so that was, a great saver of time and money.
How much money was saved?
That was $80 million
80
is how much it would have cost to do all those physical tests.
Right. That's so great. So this year we're celebrating how the labs came together 25 years ago to form one ERDC. one organization of experts across multiple disciplines. How does ERDC collaborate with other laboratories, defense agencies, research institutions, and industry partners in the realm of supercomputing?
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting question because I think the supercomputers are really a great tool for collaboration. We have users at every one of ERDC's laboratories that run on our computers, and so they're widely used tools. And I think what's interesting about the researchers that are using those is they tend to put themselves on teams with researchers at other laboratories that are doing similar types of computational analysis to them. And so it's really rare to find just one lab working on a research project. It's really a great, I think, tool for collaboration across the ERDC. And then with industry partners and research institutions, whenever we're out there talking about partnering with people, we always talk about the computers we have and how they'd be able to work with us on the computers. And it's just a huge draw because this is a resource that not a lot of people have. It takes a lot of money to stand up these centers to buy the computers, and it's really just something that people that want to work with us look at, is an advantage to working with us.
Okay. Can you tell me about new technologies or innovations that the DSRC is implementing, and how do you ensure that your technology remains on the cutting edge?
Absolutely. So, I think computers are constantly advancing. They're always getting faster and faster. New technologies are coming out. So in the center, we have a 2-year refresh cycle on the computers. So we don't get rid of them after 2 years, but every 2 years we bring in another supercomputer. And so right now we're bringing in a new one called Carpenter. It's about to be accepted in a few weeks here, hopefully. And so that one has almost 300,000 cores, almost 10 petaflops of compute capability. And so
you're speaking language that it's so big that you're using phrases of I've never heard of computer system that big before because I don't even know what that means. Can you explain what are those how you're describing how big it is? Is there a way to simplify that for those listening and for myself?
Yeah, absolutely. I started kind of going off there. But no, with the compute cores, you might look at your laptop and a lot of them will have 8 or 16 cores.
Okay.
And that's really just one compute unit that can kind of sit there and do math on its own independently. And so, this has almost 300,000 of those. And so, it's considerably more math you're able to crank out with it.
Okay.
And in terms of petaflops, that's just a unit of how many basically floating point operations you can do per second. And so floating point operation is like a decimal multiplication. So you think of like 64 digits with a decimal point in the middle, multiply that by another one. They can do, 9 billion of those every second.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that's better. That's better. So, how do you ensure again that the technology remains on the cutting edge? I mean, how do you know, okay, it's time to get that new computer, and what happens to the old supercomputer?
So we have a constant refresh cycle, of the systems. Every 2 years, we're getting a new one, and that means, we have a number on the floor. Right now, we currently have, I'm going to have to look at my list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 supercomputers on the floor. The oldest one is about to reach the end of the life. That one dates back to 2014 is when we got it. But then every 2 years, we've gotten a new one. Each one of those a lot of times they have different flavors. The newest one is going to be focused on kind of our traditional compute and CPUs. The one we got before that was focused more on some of our AI, ML, and data users. So it had a lot more GPUs, and the storage system was designed differently. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things you hear, like with the image detection, within pictures or some of the large language models that people are talking about now, those types of things can be programmed on supercomputers. And so this one was really targeted more toward that workflow than some of our traditional workflows. Okay,
so it's so funny because I think a lot of people think, there's just a supercomputer. Not that there's a bunch of supercomputers. You know what I'm saying? It's like the supercomputer, I don't know, not thinking that it's plural. So that's good to know that there's more than one.
There's quite a few, and we've been seeing more and more demand, so we're hoping to, be capable of hosting more and more in the future.
So high-performance computing system at ERDC has always had interesting naming mechanisms. For example, being named after precious minerals and gemstones such as topaz. ERDC recently updated its naming commission. The commission now honors a Mississippi Medal of Honor recipient. And I understand we have a brand new system, as you just alluded to, that will be celebrated soon. Can you tell us about this new system's namesake?
Yeah, that's right. So in the past few years, we did change the way we named the systems, and they're now named after Mississippi Medal of Honors winners. And so the next system that is going to be put in production is named Carpenter, and that's after William Kyle Carpenter. He was a corporal in the U.S. Marines. He was born in Jackson, Mississippi, raised in Flowood. And he's actually the youngest living Medal of Honor recipient right now.
Wow.
So he got his Medal of Honor award while in Afghanistan, and I'll read the citation
yeah, absolutely.
here. So while serving in Afghanistan, the enemy initiated a daylight attack with hand grenades, one of which landed inside their sandbag position. Without hesitation and with complete disregard for his own safety, Lance Corporal Carpenter moved toward the grenade in an attempt to shield his fellow Marines from the deadly blast. When the grenade detonated, his body absorbed the brunt of the blast, severely wounding him, but saving the life of his fellow Marine. Yeah, no, we're really excited about the name of the system. We're going to officially kind of do the ribbon cutting December 12th, and he's actually going to come down for that, him and his family, so we're really, really excited about it.
It's all what we're talking about in our office in public affairs. We're very excited about it also. So what would you like listeners to learn from this valuable conversation?
So, I guess the main takeaways are just the computers provide a great resource for research and developers across the DoD. ERDC manages the center not just for its own researchers, but it's really one of the DoD DSRCs. And so people across the DoD use these systems to help, their research projects help develop better weapon systems to support the warfighter. And that's really, I think, a service that ERDC provides, the DoD above and beyond, some of the baseline stuff that ERDC